This story is part of Penny's World, produced by Penny's Day Nurseries and available via pennies.co.uk. We hope you enjoy it and listen to the others in the series. Isaac Goes to the Farm by Amy Williamson. Isaac woke early on a Saturday morning. He was very excited. You may be wondering what made Isaac leap out of his bed so quickly he skidded on his train set and fell into his sister's dressing-up box. And what made him eat his breakfast so fast his mummy said he would give himself a tummy ache. You may also wonder why he dressed in a yellow t-shirt and green shorts, even remembering socks, without being asked. Isaac would have told you with an enormous grin.
We're going to the farm today.
Isaac loved the farm. He loved his shiny red Wellington boots, which he had to wear because it was muddy. He loved the pigs with their funny wrinkled noses, who snorted in a way that his mummy would tell him off if he tried to copy them. He loved the lambs that bounced like they had springs in their silly wobbly legs. He loved Arthur, the grumpy horse, who had nibbled on his daddy's hair, mistaking it for hay. But most of all, Isaac loved the playground. His favourite farm had a playground so huge he was sure he could fit 1,000,000 of his house into it. It had everything he could ever want to play with. Mummy usually took his sister Molly off to see the bunnies and fluffy creatures while he played with Daddy for ages. Molly didn't like getting muddy. She was a whole year older than Isaac and only liked things that were pink. Isaac thought pink was disgusting. But he'd never tell Molly that, in case she told Mummy, and they weren't allowed to go to the farm. Isaac was ready by the door before everyone else, so excited he thought he might burst. Finally, they were on their way, and Isaac decided to fill the silence with a very loud, very out-of-tune version of Old MacDonald's farm.
And on that farm they had a pig, E-I-E-I-O, with a here and a there, here, there, everywhere. Ew! Mummy! Isaac's being gross. It's part of the song.
Mummy told them all to calm down unless they wanted to go home, which was a silly question because of course they didn't want to go home. They were going to the farm. It was very busy when they got to the farm, and Mummy made them promise to stay together as they joined the queue. Mummy got their tickets and some stickers. Isaac's was the same red as his wellies, and as he stuck it onto his t-shirt, he puffed out his chest proudly. Molly asked if they came in pink, but settled on a purple one, saying something about it looking good with pink. Isaac didn't care. He just wanted to go and play. The animals were really noisy, but no one told them off. In fact, people liked the noisy animals. First they went into the sheep barn. A man called Jamie was talking about the sheep.
So when we shear off all the wool, we sell it by the bagload to big companies who make clothes.
Are there different coloured sheep to make different coloured clothes?
No, there are different coloured sheep, but to make colourful clothes, the companies use coloured ink.
Jamie explained what sheep like to eat and do. Isaac was fascinated. He never thought sheep, with their small eyes and oily wool, were that interesting. At the end of the talk, he went over to Jamie and said,
How do you know so much about sheep?
Jamie knelt down and explained that as a farmer, it was his job to know about the animals. He said he was giving another talk about the horses in a little while and suggested Isaac come. Daddy pointed out that they wouldn't have very long to play in the park if they went to the talk, but a determined Isaac straightened up and said in a serious voice,
But Daddy, a farmer, has to know about animals.
Daddy laughed, but said they could go to the talk. On the way to the stables, they passed a noisy gaggle of geese and a cross coop of chickens. Isaac told them off for being too noisy, but they didn't listen. and instead a brave goose stuck his head in Isaac's pocket and started looking for food. Isaac giggled at the goose's funny face, then ran to catch up with his family. Next they passed the pigs. There was a huge mummy pig and 8 tiny teeny piglets. Isaac thought they all looked very funny until he looked down and spotted one particularly naughty one munching on his favourite red wellies.
Stop it!
But the little piglet just gave a small cross snuffling noise and carried on chewing. Eventually, Isaac managed to wrestle his boot from the mouth of the determined little piggy, who just snorted as though he didn't care, and tottered back to his mummy. Isaac looked at his boot, but it turned out to be fine. The little piglet's teeth hadn't been very strong, so his boot lived to be worn another day. The family started moving to look at the next bit, and Isaac stuck his tongue out over his shoulder at the pigs before running to catch up. They passed a donkey in one of the fields and a herd of very noisy cows in another. Continuing up the muddy path, Isaac could see the stables and started to run, but just before he reached them, he stopped. The whole family stopped with him and looked into a field. Lumbering towards them, with a slow, plodding stride, was Arthur, being led by Jamie. Arthur was a very big horse. He made Jamie look teeny tiny. Jamie opened the gate and led big Arthur through it. Then he stopped and asked Isaac if he wouldn't mind closing the gate for him.
It's important to close gates, otherwise animals might escape and cause trouble or get hurt.
Isaac listened carefully, and they began to walk down to the stables. A group of people were waiting to hear Jamie's talk. Isaac squeezed through the adults to stand at the front.
This big horse is Arthur. He's a Clydesdale horse. Does anyone here know how we measure horses' heights?
No one raised their hand.
Well, horses are actually measured in a measurement called hands.
Isaac looked down at his hands, then up at Arthur and back at his hands. Then he held them up in front of himself and squinted to see Arthur against them.
That's a big horse then.
Everyone laughed, but Jamie held his hand up for silence.
He's right. Arthur is a big horse, but the hands we measure them in are the size of a man's hands.
Jamie picked up a pair of large stuffed gloves and asked for a volunteer. Isaac's hand shot up. Jamie said they were going to measure Arthur. Then they put the first glove against his hoof and the other right above that, and so on, until they reached Arthur's head.
So, did everyone keep count?
They did. Big Arthur was nearly 20 hands high. Jamie explained what horses ate and how Arthur liked a few polo mints. He kept nibbling at people to see if they had any. Jamie showed them the brushes they used to keep Arthur looking shiny. They all had funny names like Currycomb.
I thought that was what Mummy sometimes did for dinner.
That caused a few giggles. Isaac said thank you and followed his parents back up the path. He dragged his parents to the playground. He gazed at the equipment, almost too excited to know what to go on first. Daddy looked worried. He explained that they didn't have long left until they had to go. Isaac's bottom lip wobbled for a moment, until Daddy said that he had a few minutes to play.
Woo!
First, Isaac ran to the slide. He scrambled up the steps as fast as he could, whooshed down and flew off the end.
Daddy, push me on the swings.
Isaac's daddy helped him onto the tire swing, pushing him as high as he could. Isaac thought he was higher than the trees. He pretended his feet were touching the clouds.
The roundabout, Daddy, quick!
Isaac and his daddy ran to the roundabout. Isaac's legs were all wobbly as he grabbed hold of the handles of the roundabout and held tightly. His daddy began to push it around and round and round and round and round and round, until Isaac was almost certain that there were at least 4 of his daddy. Isaac was giggling when Daddy stopped the roundabout and explained that they had to go. Daddy promised they'd come back. They all met up in the gift shop. Molly went to the fairies display. Isaac pulled a face behind her back, then something caught his eye. A small green rucksack with a clear cover and inside was a collection of plastic farm figures. One of the horses looked just like Arthur.
Daddy, can I have this, please, please, please?
Daddy looked at the price and spoke to Mummy. They agreed to get it for him as long as he promised to behave himself on the way home. Isaac loved his rucksack.
I'm like a proper farmer.
Molly bought some fairy wings and they went out to the car.
Do you promise we'll come back?
Daddy promised. Thank you for listening to this story from Penny's World, produced by Penny's Day Nurseries in association. The script was written by Amy Williamson and performed by Holly Jeffrey, Adam Daffin and Jasmine Kelly. We hope you enjoyed it and listen to the others in the series, which can be found at www.pennies.co.uk.